Hey, this is Aaron, and today I want to talk about the 2020 Golf GTI. This is in the Autobahn edition, which I highly recommend. That adds just a few little things to just make it feel even sportier than it already is. So let's go through this car. Has a 6-speed manual transmission, has a 2-liter TSI underneath the hood there. It's a beautiful, beautiful little rig. It's a small hot hatch. That's the idea. Volkswagen's kind of defined that with this car, and it really is fun to drive. It's front-wheel drive, a little bit of understeer, but not too much. Volkswagen has done a pretty good job of working the balance on this car so that the understeer is kind of what you would, I don't know, intuitively expect. So it's not heavy, and you don't notice it unless you're looking for it. So they did a good job on that. Drives pretty well. This is the, as I think I said, this is the Autobahn edition. That adds a few things, like the red stitch on the leather, and a few other things. This sunroof here, that one of my beefs, it continually pops open, just by like this much, just enough to let the sun come in on your eyeballs. That's a Volkswagen thing. I've been in several models of Volkswagen that do that. It's because there's no latch on this upper thing. Kind of an annoyance, but this is in a great red color. So a few things that I noticed that are interesting conveniences that have to do with this Volkswagen. One is when you use the clutch to shift gears. So when you shift gears and you have the adaptive cruise running, say on the freeway or something, you shift down to 5th gear, it does not turn off the cruise. In fact, those of you who are driving a manual who are used to just using the clutch to disengage the cruise, it doesn't happen in this car. What you have to do is you have to actually use the brake, or turn it off on the steering wheel controls. That's kind of cool because I've only been in one other vehicle that allowed you to manually shift the gears in a manual transmission. Manually shift the gears while in cruise control without losing said cruise control. That was a Ford Mustang. So it's wonderful to see it in here because that's just a really cool thing. It allows you to downshift and upshift on the freeway. So, you know, if you move over the lane, you're in the passing lane and there's somebody in front of you and they're still going slow, and then they finally get out of the way, you can downshift to get that extra oomph to hurry up and get back up to speed. Use that a couple of times this week. Other little things, the interior is bigger than it feels, so all the Golf stuff still fits. That means that the back seat is 2 adults, as long as they're not too large. There is pretty good amount of room back there, but if you put a lot of tall people in this car, they're going to get cramped. I've had 3 kids across back there, and they were okay. Lots of cargo, more cargo than you would expect. That's a product of the Golf's design. It has an almost crossover looking hatchback rear, and that square gives it a lot of space back there. Lots of floor space because the seats are on an angle, not straight up and down, so you end up with a lot of floor space because of that. Just drives really well. It feels really good to drive this car. It's a lot of fun. I will point out that I have driven this in years past with an automatic transmission, and that was no fun at all. So the manual transmission adds a huge amount of fun factor to this car. So I very much recommend it if you're going to get this car. Other things I'm thinking about this car, it's peppy, but it's not fast. You're not gonna win a lot of checkered flags. I did not do any 0 to 60s or anything like that. It's winter conditions in Wyoming right now, and so finding that, you know, being able to do that sort of thing is a little bit limited. And also, to be really frank, nobody would be impressed by the numbers this car would give. I'd be really surprised if it beats 7 seconds. And if it does, it's going to be in the 6.5 range at best. I just don't, you know, that's not, in today's market, that is not terribly impressive, right? When you have cars out there that can do sub 5s. So, but this is not a car that's about that. This is a car that's more about the fun factor and just the feel of the car. It just feels like it's a lot of fun. So great things there. Another thing about this car, it has electric assist on the steering, which means that the amount of assistance is variable. So when you're driving around town at lower speeds, 30 miles an hour or less, you're driving around, it feels stiffer. It's harder to turn the wheel. It's a little more sporty. When you're up above that, when you're at higher speeds, it's a little looser because you're probably cruising and you're not really interested in having to muscle it all the time. You just want to cruise one-handed or whatever. Wonderful setup on that. Volkswagen did a good job there. Price tag for this car, I'll try to show you the Monroney here. I don't remember what the starting price is for the GTI specifically. I think it's around 35, I want to say. In the Autobahn, it starts at 36.5, and then with shipping and destination and all of that, it's about 37.5. 37.4, I think, is the total. So looking really good. Great crash ratings on this. Really good fuel economy. I've done pretty well. It's rated at 32 on the highway. I've done that well, that or better in this car. The around town is at 24 according to the EPA. I have no way to test that. I've given up on trying to test in town ratings. 27 is the overall combined rating. I did better than that all week, and I drove mostly in town. So I did put about 100 miles of highway driving. That's over 55 miles an hour. About 100 miles on that, but for the most part, at least half of the miles that I put on this car, probably more, because I put about 260 something miles. I have everything turned off, or I would tell you off the dash. It's about 260 odd miles. And only about 100 of that were on the highway. So the rest of it was just driving around town at under 40 miles an hour. And it still did really well. I still beat that 27. So really good. I really like this car. It's kind of overlooked now. It hasn't had an update in a while. It's people think of it as they don't look at it anymore because there's so many options now. And a lot of those options are really good. So it's great to see the little hot hatch category kind of picking up a little bit. So that's what I got. This is the 2020 Golf GTI in the Autobahn package. This has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.